data classification. And over here, public data, private data, internal data, confidential, restricted. Okay. So here, let me just go back to the data. Okay. Under what type of data did I made you learn? Like we learned in this platform, quantitative and qualitative. Under quantitative and qualitative, what type of data did we learn? Continuous, discrete data. And the discrete data, you have ordinal data, discrete, nominal data. All right. So please make a note. Where does our continuous and discrete data falls under quantitative data? Please make a note. You have continuous data and discrete data under quantitative data. Quantitative, it's in a huge quantity. Clear? All right. Data classification. Kindly continue.
Data classification is the act of assigning an information category based on the content's level of sensitivity. It helps determine what amount of safeguarding and security control are necessary for the data. If if you work in the data classification or data management, you might hold job title like data steward, data manager, or data scientist.
Yes, I've already given an example. Business analyst, data steward, data managers are the one who deals with the data day in, day out. And that's how this designation was. It has a booming industry because we will not going to be stopping using gadgets. We're not stopping using application. And that's how the data will be continuously seen within our surrounding. It's not something going to be coming on future. It is something which is already happening right now. All right. So data help us to understand what our data we're supposed to safeguard into, what are the security controls necessary for the data, and how do we do the data management? Data management is done by these sets of designation. Clear? Now, kindly continue.
What data does your organization get from consumers, clients, vendors, and other business entities? What kind of information and data does your business generate, such as files, spreadsheets, client profiles, and receipts? What is the level of security or sensitivity of the data? What parties require access to your data and how often? How does your organization store digital records and how long does it keep documents in each category?
What type of data, what types of data do you collect about in your company? How does a company generate the data? How does a company, that means, do you have a filing system? Which type of system do you follow for data storage? And which type of cloud does your company follows? What type of security level do you have? Does your company follows DPA or GDPR? Does your company have acquire? How does a company store the data? Do you have customer data storing or only employees and the clients and vendor data storing? How does a company organize storage digital records? And how long you keep your customer data or your employee data, your ex-employee data? How much level, how many number of years do you retain the data? So these are the questionnaire can be covered if you're working with a data industry company or working parallelly or very closely with the data related jobs. Clear? Kindly continue. Different types of data, which we cover, different type of cloud. So this is data is different and different cloud is covered. Public cloud, private cloud, and internal cloud, confidential cloud, and restricted cloud. All right. Here we have three types of cloud only: public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. There are different types of data. Please understand. Clouds are above the data. All right. Clouds are above data. Data, it's a classification. How we getting the data? Public cloud or public data would be the national data. Like for example, GOV of India. Have you have digital locker? DigiLocker,
Yes.
have you heard about that?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. So DigiLocker is an example of public data. Kindly continue.
Public data is information that's made public but poses little to no risk if known, assessed or used by others. Public data can be personal to an individual or to a company or organization. It typically has the lowest level of data classification and security. This data often gets shared, updated, and passed around.
All right. So here, public data, as I gave you an example, public data is personal to an individual. You have your own personal ID, login ID to the DigiLocker, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. That's how. And it is highly secured and the data is stored by our national security. All right. And it is a typically lowest level of data classification. Why? Because it's a possibility of hackers. It is a possibility of hackers. So it can get shared, it can get updated and passed around. But the only factor here you can do is you can have a two-step verification. Two-step verification, what you do on the laptop. Are you aware?
Yes. One-time password and then captcha.
Exactly. One-time OTP, one-time password, Or the two ways, like you have to get authentication on the phone. Do you get it, right? Are you logging in? Do you get it from the Google?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, that's the
Yes,
two.
yes.
Yes. Next one, kindly continue.
Initials and surnames, company names, and information about the founders or executives, birth dates or incorporation dates, email addresses, phone numbers, and addresses, job description and open positions, publications in the press, organizational diagrams, numbers on license plates.
So these are the information is been shared on the public data. All right. You might be sharing a driver license, correct? You can have
Mhm.
your organizational details. You can have your publication. Publication is like, you publish any kind of press on a presentation,
Journals.
like a peep. Yes, exactly. The
Journal.
journals, the PhD thesis also you share, right? On
Yes.
the platform. Job
Yes.
description, your numbers, your email ID, phone number, address is very common. Your
Mm.
birth dates, DOB, all right, your incorporation dates, your company details. These are the sets are accessible on the public data. Next one, private data.
Private data. Private data is information you might want to keep private, but are prudent to keep from public access. It doesn't have a high level of security like some other types of data do. Examples of private data might include your home screen, email address, phone numbers, or fingerprint code. Email addresses and phone numbers are examples of personal contact information. Data from research or surfing history on the internet, email inboxes or mobile content, identification numbers for employees or students.
All right. So here, when we talk about private cloud, the term itself says clearly that is your private cloud, you want to keep it private, but it is only keeping prudent. What do you mean by prudent? You're refraining from, or you are marking it. You're creating like for example, uh, marking it's like judiciousness. How do you do that? Like for example like yeah, it will help you to do that. All right, that means private cloud helping you to keep it private, but are prudent to keep it away from public access. That means it is difficult for them. It is refraining, but refraining in a kind of difficulty together. It's very difficult to keep private information very private, isn't it? There's a lot of chances to get it a data breach. What is data breach? Data breach means loss of your security, loss of your data is called as data breach. All right. So it doesn't have a high level security. Even this is doesn't have a high level of security because it can get hacked, it can get shared, it can get leaked out. It could be a home screen, email address, phone number, fingerprint code also. So the private data which you actually give your information to your company, your data which is with your company is all a perfect example of the private data. All right. Next one, internal data. Kindly continue.
Internal data. Some examples of internal data can include financial and other personal information, such as credit card and bank account details or passwords for thousands of people working for the same company at the same time. Business strategy and plans, internal memos or emails, platforms for company intranets.
This is between the company, all right, and their workers and their employees. And on the other hand, it is between the bank, like for example, if you're banking with three different banks, so bank with their customer. All right, got it? The
Yes.
examples here: company with their employees and banking sector with their customer. So these are the data are called as internal data. All right, next
Okay.
slide. Kindly continue.
Spreadsheet budgets and revenue estimates, platforms for email and messaging, archived data, locators of universal resources, URLs, IP internet protocol addresses. Employees may have different levels of security and access to internal data. An entry level accountant, for example, may not have the same amount of access to historical data or future forecasting reports as a financial executive.
All right. So here, like based on a level of hierarchy, the data is been accessed to you. All right. If you're entry level, you will not get the data like you're accessing by the senior level, as simple as such. All right. And those data, which data based, it is forecasting the budgets, you're forecasting the financial budgets, you're forecasting the stock market, those data is called as historical data. Historical data is nothing but previous sets of data which has been collaborated together, all right, confined together to create a logistics, a logical sets of statistics, which is helping us to create understanding, and we can predict the forecast based on the historical data. All right. So it gathers your URL. It can cross-verify your IP. It knows, it can also store like an archive data. It helping us to understand which platform in email are you messaging it. And the spreading the budgets and revenue estimation can be done within the internal data. Please make a note. For now, we studied the 3 types: public data, private data, and very good, and internal data. By the end of all the 5 types, we have 5 types, right? By end of the 5 types, you have to tell me which type of data do you deal with within your designation. All right. So within your circle, within your circumference, what type of data do you deal with? That means, are you dealing with? All right. That's the only one question I'm going to ask. Next one, confidential data.
A confidential data classification means a limited group of individuals or parties can access the sensitive information, often requiring clearance or special authorization. Confidential data access might involve aspects of identity and authorization management. For example, like regulated links to files or specialized password authentication to view content. Some examples of confidential data include.
Yeah, kindly continue, then I'll explain. Yeah.
Numbers of social security, numbers from state issued identification cards or driver license, identification numbers for vehicles, health and medical records, information on insurance providers, card numbers, PIN codes, and expiration date, account and transaction information for cardholders, magnetic strip material on credit card, financial statements, numbers for certification or employment license, record of students or employees, fingerprints, and other biometric identifiers.
All right. The other examples like sexual preferences, health data of a person, financial data, political information, union trade, IP, intellectual property, rights database. All this database are also going to be a confidential data. All right. Confidential data of an individual, which cannot be shared or can be shared on any other platform. It has to go through one-to-one only. All right. So here there are certain companies like the business tycoons. There are Indian business tycoon or global business tycoons. They have their own cloud personal database, like public, private, and hybrid. They have their own individual cloud. You can imagine individual cloud means what? That means they are paying for their own personal security, and that is only within that circle of only 4 to 5 people are aware about what is happening within that storage. Clear? All right. Next slide. And the last one, 5th one, restriction data.
Restricted data is the most sensitive of the data classifications. It often has strict security controls to limit the amount of people with access to the data. If breached or compromised, restricted data might pose a risk to public health and wellness. Cyber attacks against restricted data are typically illegal. The following are some examples of restricted data. Data is safeguarded by rigorous confidentiality agreements, information about federal taxes, health information that is secure.
Okay, so these kind of examples, all right, health information, taxes, income tax, RBI, SEBI, might have heard about both, all right, being an Indian citizen, both of them followed restrict data. Companies like this, all right, they follow restricted data because they're very typical. Cyber attacks restricted are typically illegal. You cannot even think of hacking such level of platforms. Clear, everybody? And their data is highly restricted and highly safe. Next one, HIPAA. We're going to learn about HIPAA. Kindly continue.
The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act helps ensure the confidentiality, storage, transmission, and access of patient records. Confidential and restricted classifications sometimes get used interchangeably. State and federal requirements often provide a framework for organizations to classify their data and information.
All right. So what is HIPAA? HIPAA stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's a law in US and it's been there existing since 1996. Now, why this law we're talking about here? Okay. This law help us to understand that or help us to not to share any other person without the consent of the patient. So, for example, if I have a grandfather, all right, my grandfather is admitted to the hospital, my grandfather will not be sharing any data if I'm not in his will, all right, to any other person. If he said that only me and my other couple of my of the grandchildren can, can be having access to his IP, intellectual property rights, or any other will, if I'm in his will list name, I'll be allowed to meet him in his last moments, last recital. I cannot be changing without the lawyer. My parents won't be able to have an access on those kind of documents. Got it, everybody? So
Yeah.
because health is related to the property, and this sport can be malfunctioning. What do you mean by malfunction? That means people can manipulate very easily. All right. So here, to make the safeguard, even Indian government is thinking to adopt HIPAA. That's why HIPAA is a part of this session. Clear? Indian government will be collaborating or will be accepting the similar law, but in a different format to able to adjust to Indian way of culture which we have, that is living with the joint family. All right, because it really works for the nuclear family in the states, but it become difficult for us to being in a joint family. All right, so we are working towards that. Clear, everybody? Simple said,
Yes.
to have the consent of the person who is right now, and that health information should not be shared to any party, even their own children cannot have their health information without the patient's consent. That is HIPAA. Clear? TCP, data collection plan. So and the data collection plan, how do you collect the data, the term cells and everything, roadmap, and different types of data. And once you collected, how we're able to achieve the level of security, and how we're going to be, how we'll be calculating this complex sets of calculation. Everything will be covered under DCP. Measure name, how are you going to measure? Measure name means, are you collecting the data of continuous data or discrete data? What is the reason of collecting this measuring? What the type of data you're collecting? Do you have any specific rights? Are you working within the law to collect the data? Next, what is the size of data? That means what you're going to convert the data into. What is the exact purpose? How much data you'll be collecting from the customer? And who is responsible to able to safeguard the protection of the data after collection? And which methodology and what methodology you will use after collecting the data? All right, let's start with the DCP plan. Kindly continue.
A data collection plan ensures that everyone working on a Lean Six Sigma project is on the same page with regards to the data plan. It also ensures that this information is correctly channeled to the right stakeholders in the organization. The purpose of the plan is to make sure that the data collected are meaningful and valid. We need a data collection plan because we want to be efficient by not wasting resources on collecting data that is irrelevant to the project or not usable. We can focus our efforts on answering specific questions that have business value instead of just locating and measuring data just for the sake of doing so.
All right. So a DCP, data collection plan, means it is a kind of a document, all right, which is helping all the people who are involved with the Lean Six Sigma project to able to be on the same page, to able to understand the same sets of strategies and what tools and techniques have been used. All right. So it is the same document which is shared to the stakeholders, also to the data analyst who is working with the similar project. So the purpose of this is to make the collection data meaningful. We're not just randomly collecting the data and keeping it aside. We're collecting the data only which is required for the process, right? So it should be efficient and not wasting the resources and not collecting irrelevant database, which is not going to be using in the project. We're refraining from doing so, all right? We can focus that our effort should be answering the specific, it should be solving our questionnaire or answering the specific sets of questionnaire related data should only be collected. And the data should be valued just by locating, and you're not just collecting the data for the sake of collecting. All right. For example, if I have to collect the data of any particular person designation, I will not collect the data person's academic qualification, which is not required for me. Clear? Next one. Kindly continue.
Identify the questions you want to answer, determine the type of data accessible, determine the amount of data required, determine how the data will be measured, determine who will collect data, determine where the data will be gathered, determine whether to measure a sample or the entire population, determine how the data will be shown.
So if you have to start with the DCP methodology in your company, these are the 8 questionnaire you have to start raising to your Lean Six Sigma deployment leader or the project champion or the black belt or the master black belt who is who is leading that process. All right. And then based on this questionnaire, you can start with the methodology, how we're going to collect the data, how you're going to measure, and what level of data should be collected, and what level of sets of we should be able to refrain. Everything in this 8 questionnaire. All right. Sampling. Sampling means how do you collect the data, a process of collecting the data. Let's start. Kindly continue.
Sampling is a statistical analysis technique in which a predetermined number of observations are drawn from a larger population. Depending on the sort of study being conducted, the method utilized to sample from a broader population may include simple random sampling or systematic sampling.
In a 2-factor, you have a simple random sampling and systematic sampling. Sampling is nothing but a technique, simple sets of technique. How we able to create a conclusion. For example, my conclusion would be, I have 3 of them here, all right? Example, even assuming even I am the student here, all right, or a delegate here. So we have 4 of them. Out of 4 of us, all right, what is the common factor we can conclude the drawing on? That means we all are engineers, number 1. Number 2 could be, the second factor would be us, we are citizen of India, all right. We share
Yes.
lot of belongings and cultural heritage with each other. So these are the common factor. So the common factor would be separated in a separate manner, all right. And the uncommon factor, the background, the history of our generations, and the location, that would be a different factor, correct? So
Yes.
those are called as common, similar factor, and non-similar factor. Under that, similar factor, what do you mean by simple random? So keeping this factor in your mind, similarity in a group, non-similarity in a group. Okay, so simple random sampling. The first one, simple random sampling means it's a subset of an individual chosen from a larger one. For example, I'm selecting one of us who would be representing us. All right, because we think that our thought process is similar. We come from for example, we come from a similar background. We have a similar family history. All right, so I am selecting one individual chosen from a larger set. All right, and the individual is randomly selected. Okay, randomly. That means if I'm selecting anyone, I can select anyone for the questionnaire, one questionnaire at a time. Correct? I can select anyone, yes or no. Simple.
Yes.
That is called as simple random sampling. I am simply selecting one person out of you 3 to give me an answer. And that questionnaire can be anything based on the topic covered today. Correct? So when I will do a revision, I'm asking any questionnaire which is randomly, I can ask randomly to anyone without any favorism, without any hidden agenda. Correct? That is called
Yes.
as simple random sampling. Simple and a random sampling. Clear? Any one of you can be chosen for one particular set of question. Next one, what is called as systematic sampling. Systematic sampling means you are systematically, I'm asking question. For example, I have C, D, and V on my screen. C for Charlie, D for Mr. Dinesh, and V for Mr. Vinod. So I will ask the question first to Mr. Charlie, practically, correct? Second to Mr. Dinesh, and third to Mr. Vinod, isn't it? That is called a systematic sampling. I am asking you the questionnaire based on your first initial chronologically placed here on my screen. That is called as systematic sampling. Clear, everybody? Random
Yes.
sampling and systematic sampling. Let's proceed. Kindly continue.
During audits, certified public accountants employ sampling to assess the correctness and completeness of account balances. Random sampling, block sampling, judgment sampling, and systematic sampling are all types of sampling. Companies utilize sampling as a marketing strategy to determine the target market's requirements and desires.
Now, sampling means what here? That is data, which is, he knows which date the auditor is going to come in and how frequently they're going to come in, right? So these are the factor. He understood about the audits and he worked on it. He worked. So this is how the real-time cases happens, the real-time crimes actually happen. But it was, though it was intention was good enough, but it ultimately was a crime. So next one, public accountants, CAs, use this assessors for correcting the account balances. For example, when they have audits, income tax, we submit, everybody here submitting income tax, yes, no, quickly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
All right. When the audits are done by the income tax officer of India or that particular region, they randomly select the accounts. Correct? They randomly select this account. That's the first one. Correct? Okay. Example, we all from Mumbai, all 4 of us from Mumbai, and we all pay taxes. So one person, all right, Henry Harvin is the income tax officer. He's going to randomly select any one of our account out of 4 of us, and he will do the audits. That is randomly selecting. And Henry Harvin is again going to be selecting under systematic sampling, he'll be checking one by one. First Mr. C, the next Mr. D, next I am R, and then V. Got it? He's going to check all the 4 of us. Understood? That is systematic sampling. That's how even the income tax officer even do the audits. Sometimes it is randomly selected audits, and sometimes it is systematic selected audits. Clear? The other types are random sampling, block sampling, judgment, and systematic. All the 4 are explained in detail in the next slide. Companies use the sampling as a marketing agency. For example, Kinder Joy. Which product? Who's the target audience here?
Children.
Children, exactly. So we will be playing in which channel of news channel? Which news channel? Cartoon Network. Got it? In the Cartoon Network, you will see children-based Kinder Joy advertisement commercial much more frequently. That's how the marketing strategy, that's how they know. All right? Now, marketing strategy will be understanding what is the timing of the school usually. Usually during the weekends, they have more this advertisement frequently displayed on the screen. Got everybody? Next slide. 2 types of sampling, 2 types of sampling strategy. See, not types of sampling, but type of sampling strategies. Okay. Kindly continue. Probability and non-probability. First one, probability.
Probability strategies. Simple random sampling. When the population members are similar to one another on important variables. Systematic sampling. When individuals of a population are similar to one another on crucial variables. Stratified random sampling. When the population is varied and encompasses a variety of groups, some of which are relevant to the study issues. Cluster sampling, when the population is made up of groups rather than individuals.
All right. So here probability and under probability strategies, you have simple, systematic, stratified, and cluster. Simple random, I've already explained. Correct? Systematic, I've already explained twice. Correct? Both of them. Now let's talk about the stratified. Stratified means when the population is varied, encompass, and variety of groups. All right. You have varied. That means you have different groups, diverse group, I will say. Okay. Studying in the same university. Correct? Like, for example, Mumbai University. We have abroad people coming up and studying here. Like, we have Russians. We have some students of Vietnam. So, lower, low cost based countries. The countries have lesser currency than India. Those base countries, students are also coming up and studying in Mumbai University. I'm just giving an example, but this is a real example. So, that's how the Mumbai University is going to stratify the group, create a student group where they understand the students are coming up from the global world, global population, and the students can come and study with this one same subject of arts or same subject of engineering. Correct? So students are from different group, but they're studying one subject. Understood now? Stratified sampling?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Next one, cluster sampling. When the population is made of groups rather than individual. Cluster means group. Group of girls, group of boys. You're not individually counting. You are having a distinguish between the chain of the gender. All right. You're checking at the gender equality as per gender 1. So how many number of females candidate would be passing out the Mumbai University versus how many were the male student passing out the Mumbai University? Usually we have male counts more versus female. Clear, everybody? So it's a group one.
Yes.
Next one, non-probability strategy. Kindly continue.
Non-probability strategies. Convenience sampling. When it is convenient to sample individuals of the population, advantage is convenience and inexpensive. Quota sampling. When strata are present and stratified sampling is not possible. Advantage is ensure some degree of representatives of all strata in the population.
Okay, please make a note. Convenience sampling. Sorry, it's also known as opportunity. Opportunity, not opportunity. It's opportunity. Opportunity or availability sampling. Please make a note. I repeat again. Convenience sampling is also termed as or known as opportunity or availability sampling. All right. Now, these are all, both the 2 types are under non-probability. All right. Where convenience is termed as opportunity or availability. Now, this one, The first one, convenient sampling means you can do conveniently. Conveniently, for example, you are serving people in the mall. All right. You see, the Tech Mahindra people, Club Mahindra people come up to you randomly. Convenience for them. And where did they stand? Where do these people stand? Which place? In the
In
mall.
malls,
While
malls.
the enter mall entrance.
Very good, Mr. Viru. It's and the entrance of the mall they stand where they know the people are just walking in and they have a fresher mind and they can come and they can talk. Either they stand at the entrance or they stand at the exit. That is called as convenient sampling, which is convenient and is it going to be expensive for them?
No.
No.
Exactly. That's why it's convenience and inexpensive. Clear? Next one, quota sampling. Quota sampling means when a starter are present and stratified sampling is not present or not possible. That means it's a convenient quota. It's also a convenient sampling technique, which is helping the subject who are likely to be underrepresented. Now, what do you mean by that? I'll explain that. So the quota sampling. Quota sampling means it's a method which is selecting predetermined number. You're already having a quota. The word quota means certain group, certain quota
Yes.
system like SC, ST,
Yes.
OBC,
Restricted
correct?
groups.
Receptive groups, very good. So the quota itself says a similar. You have some number of seats reserved in the admission. See, I'm not talking about you to offend anybody. Just take this as an example, right? Some number of seats are already reserved for them. That is called as
Yes.
quota system. Clear? Simple example. Simple likewise. So there are certain sets of seats are reserved for students. So the researcher now, for example, now I'll take a R&D research and development example. A researcher have to research about a certain study about Indian families. Okay, understanding about Indian families and how Indian families are helping to get rid of isolation, getting rid of loneliness. So for that we require joint family or a neutral family. So to understand that, they're studying how many families are joint family, how many families are nuclear family. Correct? So quota means you're trying to understand, you're just not learning about one individual. You're learning about one quota, one group. Clear? Okay.
Yes.
So the advantages is the representative of all the strata is in the population. Representative means the head of the family. It could be the grandfather. It could be the father who will represent that one family. Isn't it? We have a surname and that surname will be representing our family. Then we have surname like Mr. Epin. Is it Epin? How do you pronounce that, Mr. Charlie?
Epin.
Epin, right? I was correct.
Yes.
So Mr. Epin, I have Epin as a name. You have a surname, Mr. Charlie. So
Yeah.
I had Epin as people who's joining as a delegate, and they're mostly Europeans and UK, not in US. I've not seen in US. I've seen a very familiar name, very commonly, not common, but very familiar name in European and Epin, and in US. No, in UK. All right, Britishes. So here, Epin and Mr. Natarajan family, Mr. Munian family. All right. So this is the three family would be the quota, and one person would be selected for the able to represent that family. Clear? Mean, mode, and medium. 3M. Mean, mode, medium. We'll be learning about this. The first one, what is mean? Kindly continue.
The mean is the number you get by dividing the sum of a set of values by the numbers of values in the set. In statistics, the mean is the most common method to measure the center of a data set. It is an arithmetic average of the data set and can be calculated by taking a sum of all the data points and dividing them by the number of data points. The mean value is the average value that will fall between the maximum and minimum values in the data set.
All right. The first one, mean. Yeah. How do we calculate the mean? Simple. Sum of all the data points divided by total number of data points. All right. Assume means sometimes you have a complex sets. Sometimes you are comparing with more than one graph. Then you have assume means historical data or the previous one. And then those assume means would be plus and then division the same sum of all and number of all. I'm going to put up one question here. Posting it here. Typing it here, in fact. Please make a note. So the numbers are, for example, I have right hand side. What is my right hand side integer? Positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive.
Positive. And the left hand side is?
Negative.
Negative.
So which one is upper control limit?
Nah,
Positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive side.
Upper control limit is positive. And likewise, the lower would be the negative one, correct? So I'm taking all the positive number now. The first calculation putting up here. All right. And my digits were 1, 2, 3. Yes or no? I'm taking now 1 to 10, assuming my digits are 1 to 10, both the sides, okay? The
Okay.
positive side, 1 to 10. So if my observed data 1 to 10, all right, if the observed data is 1 to 10, okay, the data would be, for example, here 8, 5, 4, 3, 8, 7. Okay, now please find out the average. That's the mean. Question number 1. How are you going to do it? How are you
So
going to do it?
we need to sum all the digits divided by the number of the
Correct.
data.
That would be, you're going to add all the total data, observed data here, divide this by
4.9.
total number.
4.9.
4.9. How did you do that?
3.22.
Add all the one and divide by the number of.
Okay.
No, that one which is you mentioned, that
It's
should
a
not be
question number
included.
1. This is question
Yes.
number 1.
Okay.
Then 5.22.
Yes, it is
Mean.
question number 1.
Mean would be 5.22, ma'am.
Okay. What's the total answer? No. I'm just first, let's take the answer. 8, 5, 4, 8, 5, 4, 3, 8. Then 7, 9, 2, 1, 2.
It's 49, na?
Correct. 49. 49 divided by how many number?
10.
What is
4.9.
the answer?
4.9. 4.9. 4.9.
Total was 49, isn't it?
Divide by 10. Number of data was 10. So it become
Correct.
4.9.
Correct answer. Got it, everybody? The correct
Yes.
answer is
Yes.
4.9. So my mean would be 4.9. Clear? Median. Kindly continue.
In statistics, the median is the middle value of a given collection of data. When organized in order, the data observations might be arranged in either ascending or descending order. If there are an odd number of integers, the median value is the number in the center with the same number below and above it. If the list has an even number of numbers, the median is the average of the two middle values.
I'll just type this. Let me finish this up. Now, in the meantime, please tell me what are the odd numbers and even numbers. Example. Let's go back to the basic.
Odds are those numbers which cannot be divided by 2. And evens are those numbers which can easily divide by
Which
2.
is divisible by 2. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So odd numbers. Examples of odd numbers.
1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11.
1, 3, 5, 7. These are my odd numbers. Even numbers would be divisible by 2. Anything which goes by the 2. All right. So this is
Yes.
my odd. This is my even. Okay. Now I'm giving you the first sets of questionnaire. Again, I guess a typo. All right. Here. Okay. Now please find out the median for the question number 1. What is median? Which is there at the center. What is there at the center? One second. Let me just complete this now. Okay. Now, what is the median here for this question number 1? So what you're going to do is, everybody, plus kindly first for medium. All right. What you're going to do is you have to organize the statistics, the data into chronological order. Kindly do that. Putting it up as ascending order. What is the total count?
It's 11.
11. Correct. So which number falls in between? Which number?
7.
7 is the number. So what's my total count? Count was 11. Yes or no? Total count was 11. So 11 is my odd or even?
Odd.
Odd.
11 is my odd number. Correct? So if 11 is my odd number, it was very easy for me to find out one median, which was in the middle. Now let me take another example, likewise, but with a even number. Okay? I'll take the same digits. Done. Now what are you going to do again here for this step? Again, kindly organize into ascending order. Now what are you going to do next? Which is the two center number? Ascending order, you have to take the two center number. I'll put it here, the ascending number. Me as well. 1,
2,
1,
2.
2, 5, 5, 7, 7, 8, 9, 9.
Is it correct?
yes.
Is it 8 double time 9 and yeah,
You have
correct?
2 8s. You have 2 8.
2 8s. Okay, okay. That's it. And double time 9. Is it correct? All right. So what are the total number I've got? Total count here is?
10.
Total count is 10. Now, when I have a 10, 10 is my odd or even?
Even.
Even.
So if I have even number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the average of center 2. Now, since I told you all, we always proceed with the ascending order. So center 2 would be 4 or 5 or 5 or 6.
5 and 6.
Ascending order would be 4 or 5 or 5 or 6. It will be 5 and 6 growing, okay, from smaller to bigger. So 5 and 6. All right. So here I'll take two digits number 7 and 7. I'm going to add 7 and 7. 14. And the average of 14 would be
2,
7.
7.
7. So my answer would be
7.
understood. Moving further, mean is done. That's how we calculate. All right. Let's proceed with the mode.
The number or value that appears the most frequently in the set to determine the mode. Counts the numbers of times each value occurs. The mode helps is to find the most frequent number. Take the value 2, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8 to illustrate how the mode may be calculated. When we count the amount of times each number occurs in the collection, you will discover that 2 appears the most. This signifies that the mode is 2. It's as simple as that.
All right. Now, please tell me which is the most recurring number.
28 and 45 both are same. 4 times.
All right. So if you have two numbers as such, what do we do?
Again, we take mean.
Okay. Like two numbers are repeating again. What are you going to do? What is the two number here? Which two number we have here? Come on. Which two numbers are here? Most repetitive.
28 and 45.
28 and 45. What are you going to do with 28 and 45 then? You don't have a simple answer. What do you do with this? What is the formula of mode? Let's go to the formula of mode. Simple. That is 1 would be a lower boundary. H is the model class. Frequency of the model class, and then proceeding to the model class. Let's start. Range. Kindly continue. Please minimize your MS Excel and kindly continue.
The difference in values between the lowest and highest. Simply subtract the lowest value from the highest value to get the answer. As other measures of dispersion, such as standard deviation, this one does not need complex computations and may be computed by following the steps shown below. Find the least and maximum values in the supply data set. Calculate the difference between the highest and lowest numbers.
Simple. You just have to calculate the highest number you got, subtract with the lowest number you received in the observed data. That's called as range. Let's move further with the variance. Opposite of range. Kindly continue.
In statistics, variance measures variability from the average or mean. It is calculated by taking the differences between each other in a data set and the mean, then squaring the differences to make them positive. The sum of the squares is then divided by the number of values in the data set.
So the statistically speaking, variance is nothing but variability from the average and the mean. How much is the difference from the mean? What is the differences from the center, from the mean, which is calculated by the in between the each number. That then after calculating, you are squaring them up to make them a positive number. What do you always want to do? To make it as a positive number. And the sum of the square again divided by the number of the total data set, the total number of data sets. Like for example, 10 would be the total number of data sets. Let's understand further variances. Kindly continue.
The spread between the numbers in a data collection is measured by variance. It specifically evaluates the degree of data dispersion around the sample mean. Investors use variance to determine how risky an investment is and whether or not it will be lucrative. In finance, variance is also used to assess the relative performance of each asset in a portfolio in order to get the optimum asset allocation. The standard deviation is defined as the square root of the variance.
Correct. So here we have the simple sets of understanding would be the numbers which is data collected. It is understood by the measurements called variances. What is variances? For example, investors use variances to determine how much the risky an investor would be, whether it could be liquidated or not. For example, I will going to give a real life example. Variances are used by the Upstock. Have you heard about Upstock application?
Yes, yes.
Correct. The Upstock application also follows the variances from the Lean Six Sigma technology. Let's say Lean Six Sigma method. They calculate using this variances to understand whether how much level every particular investment is a riskier. But what is the percentage of riskiness is been calculated through the help of variances. All right. In finance, thank you. In finance, it is helping us to assess the relative performance of each asset. That means we use it in the portfolio management. You might have heard about portfolio management. Portfolio management also a part of the variances they also use. So as I said, Six Sigma is very a diverse topic. Some parts of Six Sigma is applicable to some parts of industry. All right. So some of the tools are applicable for some of them. Some of the techniques application for some of the other industry. So like that, in that concern, portfolio management is also uses variances of the Six Sigma calculation. Standard deviation defined by the square root of the variances. All right. Here we go. Let's proceed further. So how does the variance is calculated? You have, that is, this is which sign? Sigma sign. Sigma square is equal to, this is my summation. Sigma square is equal to my summation. All right. Where xi is equal to each value in the data set. Then you have mean of the all value data set and n would be the number of the data set. Let's do this variance. We talked about standard deviation. Standard deviation has 3 standard deviation here. See the 3, 1, 2, 3. Then this is a positive one, 1, 2, 3. The similar one, which is bifurcated. Which rule it was? What is the rule of bifurcation? 3 rules.
6895.
Correct. 68.
99.7. 95.
And 99.7.
99.7%.
Correct. Where is my UCL and LCL? Where will my LCL would be?
LCL will be left hand side, negative.
Correct. LCL my left hand side. The lower control limit and my upper control limit. Where is my mean? Where is the mean would be?
Center of the curve.
Center of the curve.
Yeah, correct.
This in standard deviation and from control chart, both are different now, because
Of
in
course.
control chart upper control limit and lower control limit is
Are
up
like
and up.
this. Are like this, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it's a difference. That's the both. That's a control chart. This is standard deviation.
Standard
It's a bell curve. They're saying it's a bell curve. There's certain. These are the both different graphical representation.
Because control chart is used in industry, I think manufacturing industry for the
Yes.
quality purposes.
For the quality purposes. Control chart is showing us the quality purposes, whether it's a controllable or it's going uncontrollable. Okay. For example, this would be one sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigma, 4 sigma, 5, 6, 7, like this. Okay. Then like this, it will be -1, -2, -3, -4. This chain of line would be continued. All right.
Okay.
So when I get the spots, when I get the observed data, and based on that, if it's going this side, can you see this? This is my observed data. This points has been dotted through my databases. There are a lot of samples. Yeah, some samples has been demonstrated, and both the only factor here is it is a balanced one. If you see, standard deviation is a balanced one, where my left hand side always becomes symmetrical to my right hand side, isn't it? Yes. So standard deviation is always balanced side. They're trying to create a balance between both the sides. That's why it's a defect free. Clear?
Okay.
All right. And this points get dotted. See this dots? This is standard rule. Do not ask me how the standard came in. It's a lot of other calculation can be taught to me. I can do that, but then that's going to be not been a part of it. Nothing else. But it's a standard rule of calculation. It's a 3 participation, bifurcation 3 level. All right. 68% of defect free, 95, and then 99.7. Achieve is the best. But only difference is under control chart, it is haywire. The bell curve can also be done under the control chart, but it's going to be like this. It look like this. And it's going to look like this. Can you see this? It's going to be
skewed.
Asymmetrical. It's skewed. Very good. It is going to be a skewed diagram, whereas standard deviation has a balanced diagram. Clear? So where were we? Standard deviation.
The standard deviation indicates a typical deviation from the mean. It's a popular measure of variability measure because it returns to the original units of measure of the data set. If the data points are close to the mean, there is a small variation.
If I change my spot from one dot to another dot, it changes the entire calculation, isn't it? So
Yes.
here, the point is, which is this denotes? What does this denotes?
Sigma.
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 Variation.
What does this denotes?
Summation.
Summation.
Summation. But it is a lean Six Sigma calculation, isn't it? It's a
Yes.
lean Six Sigma denotion. So lean Six Sigma denotion itself is a summation. And this sigma itself is a sigma for the calculation. Sigma is a standard deviation. Remember that. Sigma itself is a standard deviation. Clear? Next one. So how do you do that? Kindly continue. How will we computing it, calculating it?
The standard deviation of a data set reflects its dispersion relative to its mean. The square root of the variance is used to compute it. In finance, standard deviation is frequently employed as a measure of an asset's relative riskiness. A volatile stock has a large standard deviation, whereas a steady blue chip stock has a low variance. The standard deviation, on the other hand, assesses our uncertainty as risk, even when it's in the investor's advantage, such as above average profits.
So standard deviation, as I said, it has 6 standard deviation. The standard deviation is also known as sigma. Please make a note. Standard deviation, it has been formulated with the help of this denotion. This is clear? All right. So it plays a very defined role. It is very helping us to understand the control limits, because this standard deviation helping us to understand the control limits. Now, please make a note. How do we say that? Very important here. So how we will be pronouncing it? Very important. So in the normal standard distribution curve, you will say, this is my mean. What's going to come here? -1 or +1?
+1.
1 sigma or -1 sigma?
+1
sigma.
1 sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigma, and 4. Assuming, then here would be my
Negative ones.
-1,
negative ones.
-2, -3.
-4 sigma. Correct? So here, how are we going to pronounce that? From the mean. So I will say, the first one I'll say plus or minus
Standard deviation.
Standard deviation plus or minus standard deviation would be my, that is, how we're going to say this. Like, for example, if it's 1 to -1, I will say my 1 to -1 is I have received as plus or minus. You always going to be having 3 standard deviation in that.
Mean
right.
plus or minus.
Yes, I will say that. Yeah, mean. No, I'll put it here. I don't know if it's visible. Yeah, it's visible. Yeah, tell me. How would say this? Mean.
Mean plus or minus standard deviation. 3 into standard deviation.
Mean plus or minus 3 into standard deviation. 3 times the standard deviation. Correct? Next would be
Yes.
again the mean, likewise, plus or minus
Minus.
3 times the 2 standard deviation, isn't it? I'll give you the formula. Do not worry for this. All right. So it's always going to be plus or minus in between here. Yeah, tell me.
So what we are trying to find with this plus minus 3 into standard deviation and plus minus 2 into standard deviation.
We are trying to find out the variation between these two factors. How much is the variation between my -1 to 1? How much is the variation?
Variation, okay.
The differences. Clear? Normal distribution curve. See, I just gave an example. The normal distribution curve is also called as the bell curve. Bell curve is also called as normal curve. One more term. One more term. Very good. Who's the founder of it?
Gauss.
Very good. Carl Friedrich Gauss. The Gaussian curve. That's why it's a Gaussian curve. All right. It's a similar bifurcation given here. What's the rule? What was the rule? Which numerics?
68.
68 by 95 by
99.7.
9.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. So what is the highest number a company can achieve is defect free is 99.7. Correct. Kindly continue. Normal distribution.
The normal distribution, also known as the Gaussian distribution, is a symmetric probability distribution about the mean, indicating that data near the mean occur more frequently than data distant from the mean. The normal distribution is represented graphically as a bell curve.
So when you're doing it graphically, it is called as a bell curve. When you are learning about this academically, it is called as Gaussian distribution. Do not get confused. All right. Next slide. Kindly continue.
The normal distribution, the official term for a probability bell curve is the normal distribution. The mean of a normal distribution is 0, while the standard deviation is 1. It has a skew of 0 and a kurtosis of 3. Although all symmetrical distributions are normal, not all normal distributions are symmetrical. Many naturally occurring occurrences resembles the normal distribution. However, most price distributions in finance are not fully normal.
Thank you. What is kurtosis? Kurtosis means tail. That means what is a peak? Kurtosis means peak in simple language. All right. Kurtosis means peak. So how does it? There are different type of distribution. Okay, I'm going to just going to give a review of the short glimpse of the what you're going to learn in the master black belt. In the master black belt, you're going to learn about the Play-Kurtic. It's called as Play-Kurtic distribution. The Gaussian is a Play-Kurtic distribution. Then next you have little bit higher if you go. The next one is called as Mesokurtic or meso. Some of the countries that use the term meso, but it's Mesokurtic distribution. And the last one, which is tallest peak, this is called as Leptokurtic. So that's how it is. The first one is Play-Kurtic, then you have Mesokurtic, and then the last one is Leptokurtic distribution. So here it is a kurtosis. Kurtosis means doesn't have the most, it doesn't have a peak like a Mount Everest peak. It has a flatter. It's have a flatter. Yeah, correct. All right. Okay. So it is a symmetrical distribution, which is both the sides are similar, which is very similar. All right. But please remember, in the next sets of session, we can learn about not normal distribution. This was a normal distribution, which is similar, which doesn't have a similar, something looks like this. It is going to be not normal distribution curve. We'll be learning in the next session. All right. So many natural occurrences, normal distribution. And in finance sector, not all the type of distribution are fully normal. That's why it is called as not normal or non-normal. All right.
Formula for normal distribution.
Fx equal to 1 divided by sigma square root of 2 pi into exponential to the power of minus 1 by 2 x minus mu divided by sigma whole square.
Correct. So here, what does the formula says as? The normal distribution formula is, here it's mentioned clearly where the x stands for the variable of the data being examined as a fx. Fx is nothing but the function, probability function. All right. Fx is the probability function. Mu is always the mean and the standard deviation. The entire standard deviation is also helping us to understand the complex random variable. This normal distribution help us to understand complex random variable. All right. Moving further. And this, based on this formula, which also help us to understand whether data is either symmetrical or it is having no skew. It's also, if it's symmetrical, it will be no skew. If it's asymmetrical, it's going to be skewed or no skew. If it's asymmetrical, then it's going to be skewed or no skewed. It's going to be skewed. Clear? I repeat again. If it's, okay, I'm going to say it a little slowly. So here, if it's going to be symmetrical means when both the sides are similar, all right, then it's going to be no skew. Skew means like this. It goes haywire, right? Skewness, correct? So if it's symmetrical, then it is no skew, correct? And if it's asymmetrical, that means it is having skew, correct? Yes. Because it is asymmetrical. Understood? The normal distribution, this is what the explanation was of all the means of standard deviation, where you have sigma, the mean, the center, plus 1, plus 2, plus 3 sigma, and plus 4 sigma here. And the left-hand side is my negative number, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4 sigma from the standard deviation. This is my standard deviation. We don't say the mean, we say standard deviation, plus or minus from the standard deviation. All right. And here, if I'll give you a cumulative percentage you have to give you, then the percentage starts from the left hand side will be 0.1 to 2.32, and the percentages breakups. Here we have the Z-score and T-score. What is Z-score and T-score? It is a kind of test. Please make a note. These are types of test, all right, which we'll be covering in the further slides. So, and somebody asked me why it is 68, why not any other value? Because here we have to do the bifurcation with the 0.34. How does the 0.34 comes in? 0.34 comes in like where you have the first 99.7% of the percentage, 95. If you do the 95 bifurcation, all right, and then the 99 bifurcation, and then the 68 bifurcation, you will get the partition of the 0.34 as the defect. If you see 99.7, how much is minus 100? How much is the answer?
0.3.
Exactly. That's how that percentage came. Understood now? 0.34?
Yes.
Correct? That is 3.34. What is 3.34? Per million opportunity. Do you remember that? Correct?
Yes.
That's why it is 0.34 BPMO. Clear? Okay. Let's start further. Bell curve.
A bell curve, commonly known as the normal distribution, is a frequent form of variable distribution. The word bell curve refers to the graph used to show a normal distribution, which is symmetrical bell-shaped curve. The bell curve is the most probable event in a series of data. Its mean, mode, and median. All other possible events are symmetrically distributed around the mean, creating a downward sloping curve on each side of the peak. The highest point on the bell curve, or the top of the bell, represents the most likely event to occur.
The bell curve, the word bell curve, because it is graphically shown, all right, symmetrical bell curve, and it has two series, mean, mode, and median. Please make a note. In the next session, the first thing we will do is we'll calculate the mode in the Excel, all right? So please be ready with your Excel, all right? Make sure your system is updated with the Excel. Clear? So here it is having a downslope. What is my downslope? That means both the side of a downslope similar, correct? And it has one peak at the highest. That's why it represents as a bell curve. Simple. Next one. Kindly continue.
A bell curve is the graph that depicts the normal distribution and has the form of a bell. The top of the curve displays the mean, mode, and median of the collected data. Its standard deviation reflects the relative breadth of the bell curve around the mean. Bell curves, normal distributions are extensively utilized in statistics, especially economic and financial data analysis.
So it is graphically used in which industry, specifically in financial, for the portfolio management, for the stocks exchanges, for the understanding of changes in the economies. That means how do we able to predict? Why do we say the economy is slow? How do we say the economic is fast? How do we say that India is one of the blooming economy? Because it can be graphically depicted the level of employment rose, how do the level of education is rising, how does we having more number of employment. So this we can do it graphically depiction. That's how we can say that. And this graphical is nothing but can be done with the help of bell curve. Clear? Kindly continue. Mini tab.
Data input is simplified so that it can be easily used for statistical analysis, and it also helps in manipulating the data set. If trends, patterns, and charts are given, those are analyzed and interpreted so that final conclusion can be made. The answers are given and those are magnified with the given products or services help in the business. Problem solving is made easy and faster with the Minitab tool. Minitab is a statistics package developed by some researchers to help Six Sigma professionals analyze and interpret data.
Okay. So here Minitab is not a recent name, it's nothing called recent. Minitab has been existing in the year back in 1700. All right. In 1970s onwards, the first version of Minitab was introduced in 1970. All right. And it was given in a kind of a presentation, like a publisher book. All right. Kind of a book which was inspired. And it was done by the researcher at Pennsylvania State University. Please make a note. It's a statistical package was developed in the year 1970s by the 1970s onward by the researchers at the Pennsylvania State University. So this has a long history. And today what we have is the free version of Minitab used. It is a 30-day trial, 30 days of free version. And you have to use your company email ID for that. That is something which is by default. All right. So it helps us. It's a Minitab solution which can help us to predict the process, understand the fluctuation, eliminate the problem, as well as you can able to just calculate mass sets of calculation. Like QI macros is very good for the graphical tools, all right? The graph, histogram, dot plots, box plot, right? So whereas Minitab help us to calculate those in real time, calculate the complex calculation like standard deviation. You can calculate the how it is just exactly calculate like a economics will calculate about the Indian economy, like a financial analyst will calculate about the finances, and they're going to calculate about the upstock, like just like the upstock calculate, right? So please make it upstock is a company they themselves prefer or they themselves having a system which is relying on Minitab. Imagine, are you getting it now? So that's how they're able to give you live sets of example, and they're also able to calculate the risk. So the technology behind that, it's much more similar to like just Minitab. All right, let's proceed. Kindly continue.
Six Sigma is a methodology of quality improvement that uses data and statistical analysis to identify defects and improve processes. The Minitab software, Minitab, is used to help identify problems and potential improvements in a process. It can also be used to track progress and verify results for companies using the Six Sigma method. Minitab's features may be used to create a DMAC roadmap, reduce the use of equations in explanations of data analysis, maximize your understanding of Minitab's results for data analysis. You will learn about the Minitab screens that are used to make graphs, analyze data, and improve presentations.
Since the first Minitab was launched in the year released in the 1970s by the American statistical team and the committee, has gone a way much ahead. And the latest version is which number? Minitab 21. The Minitab version we have right now is 21.4. It's called 21.4.0. All right. This is the latest one we have. And the 17, which is there, this was already gone like during the COVID, I guess. Like it's prior to that. Okay, no problem. Let's move further. So I'll share you the link where you're supposed to download this. So Minitab software is helping us to understand the process improvement. It is getting you, for example, see, not everybody is good with numbers, not required to be. Minitab can be done with those who doesn't have a statistical background, who doesn't have a mathematical background, or who might have taken PCB during their college days, not necessarily to take up a PCM. So Minitab can be done by those who doesn't have a background of the mathematical calculation and can be easily done the complex calculation. All right. Minitab helps all the Six Sigma team to come in the same picture, and it is easily able to adapt by other management sets of team as well. It is helping us to create and compute complex sets of calculation in the define phase, measure phase, analyze, improve, and control. That means Minitab can be applied to all the 5 stages of DMAC. All right. It is helping us to reduce the equation. That's the best part. You don't have to use any kind of scientific calculator, any kind of calculator, because you have Minitab as a handy tool, the best tool, and the globally accepted tool. Clear? Next one, the benefits.
It is easy to use and learn, robust statistical analysis capabilities, ability to handle large data sets, comprehensive data visualization options, flexible reporting and export options.
So today we're going to do the free trial. I'll be sharing with the link. Kindly download the free trial and please experience these benefits. All right. Normality test. What do you mean by normality test? Let's proceed. Kindly continue.
Many statistical tools that you might use have normality as an underlying assumption. This article will explore what normality of the data means and the variety of normality tests that you can use. We will also explain the benefits of testing for normality and offer a few best practices for understanding when and how to do a normality test. Normality refers to a statistical distribution called a normal distribution, or sometimes the Gaussian distribution or bell-shaped curve. The normal distribution is a symmetrical continuous distribution defined by the mean and standard deviation of the data. It is a test for the normality of your data, whether it is a smooth or if there is any sign of noise or error in the data at all.
So when we are, as I said, Gaussian is to refer as academically, all right? Normal distribution, when we are still testifying it, that means a normal distribution, the normal distribution is used when we are doing the calculation with the simple sets of Excel calculation, and when we are performing the test in the company with the observed data, that is called as normality test. All mean the same, but applied in different stages. Clear, everybody? Gaussian is academic. Normal distribution is when you do it with the simple sets of calculation in the Excel sheet. And test is when you're actually performing the test using the observed data in the company, using the database, using the data in the company. Clear? So normal distribution is a symmetrical one, which is defined by the mean and standard deviation. It's a test of normality, understanding whether the data is normal, whether the function is smoothly functioning or not. Is there any defects? Is there any kind of error? Is there any kind of noise, sound, any kind of defect or probability of defect we'll able to highlight with the help of normality test. The term itself everything, whether the process is normal or not normal. Clear? Kindly continue the formula. Simple sets of formula.
Function of x is equal to 1 divided by root of 2 pi sigma square exponential to the power of x minus mu whole square divided by 2 sigma square.
2 sigma square. All right. Normative test calculation. Histogram. Next one. Kindly continue.
Yeah, histogram is a graphical representation of a group frequency distribution with continuous classes. It is an area diagram and can be defined as a set of rectangles with bases along with the intervals between class boundaries and with areas proportional to frequencies in the corresponding classes. For different classes, the heights will be proportional to corresponding frequency densities. A histogram, in other terms, is a figure consisting of rectangles whose area is related to the frequency of a variable and width is equal to the class interval.
What is histogram? It's a graphical representation. All right. Graphically can be done. And this under QM across, the histogram is clearly visible. Yes or no?
Yes.
So you can understand about the different heights, classes, different heights, proportion to corresponding frequencies. You can understand the rectangle. This has been done in the rectangle shape to able to understand the variable. We have done this histogram way back in our college days. Simple sets of graphical tool was the basics of histogram. All right. It is a two-dimensional figure. Why is it a two-dimensional figure? Because the frequency is shown in in the rectangle shape and the rectangular touching each other. All right. There are different types of histogram: uniform, symmetrical, bimodal, and probability. Moving further, please make a note. This is just the glimpses. We're just having a view, the basic introduction to all the types of, which is probability a part of define, and also the introduction to these kind of graphs and presentations, that is graphical presentation. We'll be completing about this in different modules as well. All right, in the further next sets of questionnaires, next sets of sessions. So this is how the graphically it looks like. The histogram, you have a frequency and the class intervals. All right, and this is been understanding. This is with the help of the observed data. You can, with the help of the dots, you can able to create the rectangular, that is the two-dimensional. So histogram, always remember the only one factor, it does not have any kind of gaps in between the bars. All right. Dot plot. Dot plot, it says everything. Dot plot is the most famous one for the research and development. For the scientific researchers, it is one of the best one. They are still continuing be using it. Let's understand further. Dot plot.
Dot plot. A dot plot, also known as a strip plot or a dot chart. A dot plot is a simple form of data visualization that consists of data points plotted as dots on a graph with x and y axis. These types of charts are used to graphically depict certain data trends or groupings. One of the most famous dot plots is perhaps the Federal Reserve's quarterly projections for interest rates. A dot plot is a type of histogram which shows the number of data points that falls into each category or values on the axis, thus showing the distribution of a set of data.
Can we see dot plot as well in the QM across?
Yes.
Okay.
Dot plot is also there.
If you have to, if earlier we used to prefer the process MA. Process MA is again one of the similar lower version of QM macros. So here, when under the process MA, if in case if this is QM macros acceptable for all of them, like is it working with all the other system here, with all the three of your systems, then I'll not refer to process MA, which is a lower version. What about you, Mr. Vinod?
Yes, ma'am.
Working? It's working
Yeah.
for you, right? So then I'll eliminate that. All right. So under that, kindly now, under this one factor called Federal Reserve quarterly projection. What do you mean by that Federal Reserve? Federal Reserve is the term itself is federal by the states. Okay. It is also called as FRED. All right. The Federal Reserve quality projection. This projection has been done real time. They use the dot plot for what? to able to project the current situation, the current statistics. Dot plot is also known as a strip plot or a dot chart. All right. The strip plots or dot chart is simply they're using dots and graphically they're able to depict the final verdicts between that. So this type of charts are the trends of grouping. What did you do? After dotting, they will make this data trend as a grouping factor. This is one of the most acceptable one. All right. Anybody heard about Federal Reserves? What is Federal Reserves first? Basics?
Just as RBI for India, Federal
Correct.
Reserve.
Correct. So here, this one is very much famous. It got famous, in fact, with the help of the FED Reserve. It's also called as FED, Federal Reserves, or the Federal stands for FED. Okay, so FED, quarterly projection. Now, this is called as FOMC. We term this as FOMC project. That means when they are projecting the committee is called as FOMC. Okay, I'll tell you what is it. So this FOMC, they're projecting is as FOMC. That is, they're forecasting which based on the quarterly survey of the macroeconomic, which is in the forecast in the US. What are they forecasting? They're forecasting the unemployment rate. They're forecasting the interest rates. So how do they forecast the interest rate and the unemployment example? Here with the help of the dot plot, which year it was and how much it has been increasing, and they'll be forecasting based on that what could be the predictable scenario. Clear? All right. So they are using real time. All right. And which is one of the most oldest platform. All right. FOMC is the one of the most oldest platform. Next one. Kindly continue.
A dot plot is a visual representation of expectations for a data set. A dot plot visually arranges the number of data points in a data collection according to the values. Dot plots are classified into two types, Cleveland and Wilkinson. The Federal Reserve employs a dot plot in finance to express its forecasts of future interest rate adjustments. Each member of the FOMC is represented by a single dot in a Fed dot plot. But
all right.
each
I'll take this. So FNC is represented by the single dot. That means they are representing like the first one. Okay. They're doing it as per the quarterly basis. This one, this chart. Okay. This chart, for example, $1 billion. I'll put it here. $1 billion. I can put it here as a year, annual, which year it was. Okay. This is going to be my year. All right. And I can put in this, which particular rates of interest has been fluctuating the most. All right. With the help of the dot plot. Later, this particular FOMC, what did it do? They usually do this. They forecast this based on the sets of the federal fund rates. That means they do it quarterly basis. All right. So the current rate, which could be the, we can say right now, which can be given to the entire as interest rates to the entire citizen of America would be 5.25 to 5.5. This is the latest one. I saw the last week itself. 5.25 to 5% is 5.5 is the rates. Okay, which the MOC has established lately in the last quarter. All right. So here the FMC members going to be voting on which to set the rates, and then later this trades closely with the rates of changes. So the entire committee will going to be acceptable for the changes, and then they're going to be giving the decision whether it's acceptable or not acceptable. So it's represented with the help of a single dot. All right. And here there are two types of classification, Cleveland and Wilkinson. We'll learn in the further slides. That is Cleveland dot plot and Wilkinson dot plot, two types. Next slide. Kindly continue.
A dot plot visually groups the number of data points in a data set based on the values of each point. This gives a visual depiction of the distribution of the data similar to a histogram or probability distribution function. Dot plots allow a quick visual analysis of the data to detect the central tendency, dispersion, skewness, and modality of the data. This is true. This is not unlike a line graph. The big difference is that dots on a dot plot are not connected via line. However, line graph connected to the dot with the line. The line graph, like a dot plot, has both an x-axis and y-axis.
It has a lot of differences with the line graph, like histogram. All right. Dot plot help us to understand the central tendency, skewedness, all right, and modality of the data. So this particular factor is highly differentiation with the histogram or any lined based data graph. This graph is purely dot, like like a strip dots are used in that, and they don't even have x-axis and y-axis. What they have is purely dot line, which is connected with the dot, and it is having a visual depiction of the distribution of the data. All right. Next slide. Types of dot plot covered here: Cleveland and Wilkinson. Kindly continue.
Cleveland dot plot. William S. Cleveland created the the notions of a continuous variable in his book, Element of Graphing Data. The Cleveland dot plot is useful when using multiple variables as it does not require the axis to start at zero. Wilkinson dot plot. The Wilkinson dot plot lays out data much like a histogram, but with individual data points instead of bins. It was created by Leland Wilkinson, which helps standardize the dot plot from use in computers and other scientific research.
All right. So the term itself says everything. We have a developer named Cleveland. All right. Cleveland says a scatter plots with one continuous axis, simple, and one category axis. You don't have two axes here. One continuous axis you have, and then you have a dot plot that is called as Cleveland dot plot. Simple. All right. So it is an alternative to bar chart. Cleveland will always going to be an alternative to bar charts. All right. And it is having a horizontal bar chart, but the dots are instead of bars. So instead of bars, you have a dots here. All right. Next one, Wilkinson dot plot. Wilkinson dot plots, on the other hand, it is much like histogram. What is histogram? But here it is depicting with the points and the dots instead of bins. What are the bins? Like this triangle is a bins, okay? It look like a bin, right? Okay, like bars. So Wilkinson is created by the name itself, the developer we have, Leland Wilkinson. The Wilkinson named as it Wilkinson.plot because of the creator. So here, how does it shows? So here it is similar to histogram, but instead of bin counts, you have data points. Example, like here it's mentioned here, that is, which helps to understand the dot plot from you can use computer and other scientific research. How we can research this? How do the researchers use? Like this. Wilkinson dot plot example is over here. You have number of years. For example, you can have, putting it here. Okay. All right. So at the bottom, you can have one simple category. All right. And under that category, you can understand which is the famous subject of the students. You can take maths, science, history, geography, and you can say computer science example. All right. So based on that, we can understand which one has a favorite subject the students have been voting for. Accordingly, the Wilkinson dot plot can be understood. All right. You're not joining any dots here. All right. You're not joining any dots here. Only what we're doing is we can using these dots of able to interpret the data of the observed data. All right. Next slide. Next one, FOMC. See, I just did not give the full form of FOMC because it's covered here. FOMC is Federal Open Market Committee, who works for the Federal Reserves. All right, kindly continue.
FOMC dot plot. The US Federal Reserve releases a series of dot plots at the end of each meeting of the Federal Open Market Committee to convey its benchmark federal funds interest rate outlook. FOMC members place dots on the dot plot denoting the projections for the interest rates in subsequent years and in the longer run. The FOMC dot plot is one of the more well-known dot plots, with each not representing the where each FOMC member predicts the federal funds rate to be conclusion of a certain period.
They have a meeting also. They have annual meeting. All right. FOMC have an annual meeting is the most influential. If you just type on FOMC, you'll get the current rates in happening in the states, today's states. All right. In the states of America. So here it helping us to convey the benchmark of the fund's interest rate and the overall outlook. The FMC members use this dot plot real time to able to denote and predict the future interest rates and the coming years as well. So the FMC is a division. Please make a note. It works like a division of the Federal Reserves, and the FOMC manage only the factor called monetary policy. Which policy? Monetary policy. All right. It manages the monetary policy, and the goal is to make sure that the market is stable, market have maximum returns. All right. Box plot. Kindly continue.
A box and whisker plot is a way for summarizing a collection of data recorded on an interval scale. These are mostly commonly used for data analysis. These graphs or graphical representations are used to learn distribution shape, central value of it, variability of it. A box plot is a sort of figure that shows the quartiles in a box with a line extending from the lowest to highest value.
It's very important for us to understand a little bit of history. To be able to understand the box plot, we got to understand the history. The history of the box plot is, it was, okay, it is going to be a little bit funny and humor as well for this one. All right. So it was introduced by an American mathematician. I'll put it here. Type it down here. American mathematician. Okay. Here. And it was introduced as box dash whisker. Box and whisker. Box dash and dash whisker plot. Yes, the whisker bottle I'm talking about. All right. This is a little funnier, but yes, it is applied. It's an applicable concept. And it's way back in the year 1969. All right. So here we're talking about box and the whisker. The whisker. All right. And here it represents a 5-number summary of data sets. What is I like to explain that? This was introduced first, since it was not any kind of software that time or a publishing website was so much to whom. It was done through a web, published through a sets of book. All right. Through like there was a numbery sets. What do you call it? As a number summary of data sets. It was a 2K. We say 2K. 2K is a person who has introduced. I'm going to put that name as well. 2K published his technique by his book called Explanatory Data Analysis. It's again one of the Lean Six Sigma book, which explains us. The book is called as Exploratory Data Analysis. So don't you people have a question? There are so many books. Which book are we supposed to refer? So aren't you people confused if there's so many books? Which books are we supposed to actually refer to? Is this question doesn't come to your mind? So it's always better to understand first which tools and techniques. Like for example, Mr. Charlie has mentioned in his company, waterfall tool works the best for us. Which is the other one?
Agile,
Hybrid. Okay. So if it's waterfall technique or waterfall in the project management based techniques or agile project management, all right. So both are very different, but he's using a combination in his company of waterfall as well as agile, all right. So he can use the books which is derived for that. Are we getting it? For example, which is the books, I can share the books which is designed for waterfall techniques. All right. The books like, and that book should be a Six Sigma book. What is a Six Sigma book? That means it is inspired by these techniques, and those techniques are now labeled as Six Sigma techniques. It was all different techniques. Are we getting it? For example, we are all a different part of citizen of India. All right. But we come together, we do not say we are a South Indian or North Indian. We say we are an Indian citizen first. Correct? Likewise, it has its own identity. These tools and techniques has their own identity. All right. And then it was labeled the Six Sigma technique because it was used in Lean Six Sigma company. Clear? Understood? So if Mr. Charlie is using waterfall methodology, all right, in his company, he has more than 7 ebooks he have to refer. Because the waterfall methodology is not one particular term or one particular method and you got this, entire Mahamantra. Nothing as such. It was done. It has a bifurcation, different books, and I'll share you the books. Understood now which books you got to refer? You got to refer those books, those ebooks, or those sets of
which are relevant to
published.
my company and my practices.
Exactly correct. Which are directly resonate or which you people practice in real time in your company. So it was explanatory data analyst. He published explanatory data analyst. If in your company, if you use box plot, then this data, this ebook You should refer, because when you people become a master black belt, this would be an amazing set. So you're going to thank me later somewhere, or even if you people forget me, that's okay. But this ebook gonna be, you will be sharing this sets of knowledge to your lower belt. And this is the breakthrough for becoming an MBB. Got it? What does the MBB does? They know the inner out, they know the inside history, they know the person who have published, they know where they have published, they know the ebooks, they know the every technicality factor of one particular discovered tool. It's just not about applied science. It's just not about applied science. It's also about how did the history begin. It matters the most. And please make a note, to become an MBB, you also have to publish your own thesis. That's one of the prerequisites. So this details, these ebooks going to be helping you out to become MBB later. Clear? So coming back to the topic about the box plot. All right. So box plot has a great history. It has a whisker plot. The whisker which we drink, right? I don't. I'm not. I'm a titular tailor. So titular tailor is a person who has not been into drinking at all in their own life, in this entire life. So now coming back to the topic. Here the John Wilder 2K. John Wilder. Oh, it's Wilder. Okay. Put it here. John Wilder 2K. He is the one who invented this statistics. It's a statistics called box plot. Clear? All right. He invented. Next one. So what is the purpose of this box plot? The purpose of the box plot is to provide a quick visual summary. What is it? A visual. Since it's defined, please make a note. Defined phase, the simple hack is defined phase or only covers maximum sets of graphs as well as diagram, as well as calculation are covered only which has a visual, which we can depict
Right.
visual. Correct? Yes, which can depict visually. So here, box plot is again a visual summary of variability of values in a data set. Simple. Variabilities of values in a data set. Three statement and you're understanding the box plot. I repeat again. Box plot help us to understand the variability of values in a data sets. That's it. So here, how we able to do it? We can design a distribution shape, central value, variability. Let's understand all three in detail in the next slide with the help of the diagram. All right. This is the diagram. We'll be learning about this here. All right. Now let's continue with the next slide. Kindly continue.
The box plot is a chart that shows data from a 5-number summary, including one of the measures of central tendency. It does not show the distribution in particular as much as a stem and leaf plot or histogram does, but it is primarily used to indicate a distribution is skewed or not, and it is there are potential unusual observations, also called outliers. The box plot is a method used to depict groups of numerical data through their quartiles graphically. These may also have some lines extending from the boxes or whiskers, which indicates the variability outside the lower and upper quartiles. Outliers can be indicated as individual plots, hence the term box and whisker plot.
Yes. So here it has 5-number summary. I'm going to taking to here 5-number summary. This is called as fine. This is the basic graphical view representation of the box plot where you have 5-number summary. What do you mean by 5-number summary? Please make out the bifurcation. This is the first point. This is called as the first quartile. Okay, I'll put it here. In fact, okay. Example. This is I'm taking one more box here. All right. So here at this point, this at the center of this rectangle box. All right. This is my Q1. All right. Quartile. We say it quartile 1. Next one. You have 3/4 of the glass filled. Just like we have a glass filled like 3/4. This is the 3/4 of the glass filled. If you make it like a vertical, structure, this will my quartile 2. All right. This is my quartile 2. Next one. At this point. All right. This point. This becomes my quartile 3. Clear? Are we getting it?
Okay.
Okay. And then this becomes this. If I want to extend it to the maximum, this becomes my quartile 4. This is the assumed data. All right. And finally, here at this end side, the minimum, that is the UCL and LCL. All right. The UCL and the LCL becomes my Q5. This is my maximum Q4. Q4 is maximum, quartile 4, and quartile 5 is minimum. Understood? Like this. Now I'm going to clear this. This is quartile 5 is the minimum, showing the minimum outliers, And quartile 4 is my maximum, which shows the maximum outliers. Outliers means which falls beyond the limitation. All right. Outliers means which falls beyond the limitation. Clear? So Q3 is minimum. So Q5 is minimum and Q4 is the maximum. Understood?
Yes.
Median means?
Yes.
What do you mean by median? What do you mean by median?
Center of the value, no?
Center of the value. Exactly. The average. Like every particular data, every particular graph has a median. Likewise, even box plots has a medium. Clear? If you're getting a database and a database has a limitation, yes or no? Every particular data has a range. So my range is, for example, we have 10 students. So our range would be 0 and maximum is counting is 10. Correct? So the minimum range is, we cannot go beyond minimum. We cannot have -1%. That means any other student is not allowed to join the session and leave the session. Correct? In between. So that would become my -1. And we cannot take more than 10 students. So but still, if there's one student want to try to logging it as 11, that becomes my outliers. Got it? We need to have a defined range. Defined range means we have to work in between the defined range. Define specific limitation. If we go below than that, that becomes a minimum. If we go above than that, that becomes my maximum. Okay? All right. And once we are trying to push for the minimum and maximum, that becomes my outliers. What is it called as? Outliers. That's it. Okay. For example, if there's any other student who joined from the previous batch, he couldn't complete XYZ reason, and he joins in for the previous batch. Clear? So he will become our -1 or +1. Very interesting.
-1.
-1. Why he was -1? Because he was already a student of this previous batch. Correct?
Yes.
Are we getting it? Yeah. And if there's one more student who's want to join after the third and the fourth day of the session, what is going to be -1 or +1?
+1.
+1. Yes, because it is breaking a barrier of 10 and this would be the 11th one. Clear? Let's go back to the topic. You understood the diagram? And here we are. This one. Kindly continue.
The box plot is a type of pictorial representation of data. It helps to find out how much the data values vary or spread out with the help of graphs. Since the center, spread, and overall range are immediately apparent, using these box plots, the distributions can be compared easily.
Okay. All right. So here we have different percentile in this. All right. We have a 2 percentile in this. All right. This is the data set to help us to explain, teach the percentiles of 25th. We learned about percentile in our college days. 25th percentile, 50 percentile. All right. And 75. All right. Okay. A block plot is a visual showing us a data set of 25, 50, and 75. Let me explain you in detail. All right. They have here, what is this side? Minimum, maximum. On my left hand side is always my, do you remember I said? Exactly. So my minus integer numbers. And the positive number integer would always come to my right hand side. Clear? This is clear? Okay. Now let's understand further the quartile. Why it's denoted as such quartiles. Kindly continue.
Minimum. The minimum value in the given data set. First quartile. The first quartile is the median of the data sets lower of. Median. The median is the middle value of the data set that splits it into two equal solutions, two equal sections. The median represents the second quartile. Third quartile. The third quartile is the median of the upper half of the data. Maximum, the maximum value in the given data set.
So here we have minimum. We understood the minimum. I will explaining you more about the quartiles. All right. First is the minimum value and the maximum value. Whatever falls in between the minimum and maximum becomes our outliers. All right. In between the outliers, we have first quartile, medium, and third quartile. Let's understand in detail. This is our medium. Medium, if it's medium, is like 55% both the sides, isn't it? Is it the center?
Yes.
Is medium is the center, yes or no? Correct? Medium becomes our center. So if medium becomes, this is our center, all right? Okay, where we are mentioning as the box, basically. So the box, the range in which the middle 50% is there. The box, the 50% is there where the data all lies, all right? So the box indicates the range in which middle 50% are all the data where it lies. This is where the data it all lies. All right. Next, thus the lower end. This is our lower end, minimum. Okay. This part from minimum to Q1, it becomes our lower end. And the lower end of the box is called as the first quartile. This is called as the first quartile. All right. Okay. I'll put it much more comprehensively. This is going to be calling us a first quartile. This is our where the data is done, data sets. All right. All the data. Next one. This is going to be our first quartile, and the upper end. This is the lower end, and this is also called as the upper end. This is going to be our third quartile. So practically this is going to be a second quartile. So this second and third, okay, in between, this is actually not the third, this is the fourth. Actually, this graph is very horizontal wise. Usually the box plot is a vertical graph. Box plot is a vertical graph. This is here we have taken a depiction of the horizontal graph. That's why we have this little bit of challenge, but I'll cover this up. This is Q1. This is Q4. All right. In this between, you have Q2 and Q3. Clear now? All right. 25 and 75. Why 25 by 75? Because in between Q1 and Q3, the interquartile range falls. This is the interquartile range. All right. So in the box plot, the solid indicates the solid line. This we have the solid line, right? The solid line indicates that the medium and the dash line indicates the mean. This is the mean. All right. So the T shape. What is the T shape here? This is the T shape. T shape whiskers goes to the last point, which is still within the interquartile range. All right. So here, basically we got to understand that this center part is our main data set line. All right. Where it covers 25th percentile or 75th percentile. It could be 25 or 75. It could be breakups of the 25, 50 or 75. All right. 25, 50. What will the other half of last part would be? Out of 100?
25.
25, last 25 percentage.
No. If I have to make it 100% as a combination, all right. So it will be either 25 and 75, correct? Is it 100%? Or else it could be 25 by 50 by how much? To make it 100%. To make it 100%, what is the percentage left here?
50%, 25%.
50%. All right.
Yes.
50%. So it can have a bifurcation either of 3 halves like this, 25 by 50 by 50, or it can have a bifurcation of 2 halves like 25 by 75, depending on the how many data variation you have. Clear? It all depends how much data variations you have. All right. Next one, RTY. Kindly continue.
Rolled throughput yield (RTY) is a statistic that compares how many of the items generated on a production line fulfill the quality standard to the total number of goods produced. Yield is the amount of products that are fully produced and meet the quality standard that allows them to be sold. Yield refers to the number of products manufactured at a specific time, while throughput is the total amount of goods produced in a given period. RTY measures how much raw material is discarded during production rather than how much finished product is scrapped because of poor quality or manufacturing.
So I like to talk about simple RTY. What is RTY? Okay, here. Now, RTY. What is RTY? RTY, for example, ruled, that is the simple sets of this. That is, it's also called as Dave Dortman. He's the person. I'll talk about history later on. Dave Dortman, RTY. Okay. Dave Dortman RTY are rolled throughput yield. Ruled throughput yield. When you say rolled throughput yield, it means, for example, this is my part. Okay. This is the part I'm receiving from the raw material. Okay. This is my initial part. All right. I started with my raw materials, and at the first inspection, I got certain sets. There's always a probability to have defects. Yes or no?
Yes.
Correct. So here at the first inspection, this is my first inspection. This is the raw material. This is my first inspection. This is my second inspection. 2 dots. All right. Then I'll be having my third inspection. 3 dots. Correct. Every particular inspection, there's a probability to have defects in the first inspection, defects receiving machinery. For example, it would be first inspection defects. Next would be machine operation defects. Third would be finishing operation defects. That there are certain sets of units defects in each of the inspection. Correct. So for example, every 1,000, I repeat again, every 1,000 parts received in the company or manufactured in the company, is there a probability to have only 800 accurate parts, whereas is there a probability to have 200 defect parts? That's what is RTY. That means every particular stage you have certain units of defect or the rework part. Clear? Defect or the rework part. So if I have 1000 parts created, out of that I have only 800 parts as a correct or as a final production. What would me? Okay, I'll just take another number. If I have 1000 parts has been produced in my factory, out of which I only receive 675. How much is my defect piece? How many are my defect piece then?
325.
Absolutely correct. Clear? Understood? That's
Yes.
what the RTY talks about. Simple. Now let's get back to the screen. It's also called as, please, the creator of the person is called as Dave Dortman. D-A-V-E, Dave dot D-O-R-T dot M-A-N man. Dave Dortman, rolled throughput yield. Simple calculation. I'll take this ahead. How do we calculate? Yield is equal to number of acceptable units, divide this by total units entering the production. Simple. Number of acceptable, that means defect free, divide this by total number of entering the production. All right. Next one. Then you have to consider yield, which is going to be dash number of quality or units compared or completed with the no rework and entering into production. All right. If you have to rework only the rework factor, then you have to use a simple sets of formula. All right. I want to also explain to you how to use under the QI macros. Can you see it in the QI macros? There's going to be a lot of jumping in here and there from the QI macros to the screen. Please tell me what is RTY in the QI macros? That is first phase of inspection, second phase of machining operations, third was finishing operation phase. So based on the three phases, based on phase 3 processes, you can multiply all the serial processes and then you can get your final number, which is going to be those units or those number which will be require reworking or needs to have a, considering this as a unit which is a default unit. When I say default, it is a defect person, and you cannot consider this final result of the RTY as a part of the final output. Why? Because it is a defect based units. Clear? So there are two types. That's called as serial process, where you can consider all the waste in one go and you can calculate. In the parallel process, where you're adding additional methodology to rework. So that's called as parallel process. So I do not like to read what is there on the net or read what is there on the ebooks. I like to prefer real time, and it's very good to have one diverse people coming up. So you'll able to think, you'll able to resonate your academics learning now with your current performances of implied science. Clear? Okay, one, you have serial process. Okay, I'll not just talk about this. You said inspection is there for 5 steps. Okay.
Yes.
How many steps? 5 steps. Some time. Okay. So, okay. And what did I say? If you need to get, you will get waste from all the 5. This is my serial process. This is my parallel process. Serial process means when I can consider all the waste together and I can have one number saying, fine, this is going to be my total, total sets of defects with overall total manufacturing process. Can we say that? That is going to be a serial. Parallel would be where at the second step, you will say, no, we can rework. Let me take another color now. At the second process, you say, no, we can rework. I can rectify the defects and I can still make it work. So when you can rectify the defects and you can make it proceed, so it's called as parallel process, where you will see what is the minimum defect. What you can see, minimum defects. What is the minimum number of waste? And then you have to consider the other sets as a valuable one. Correct? Isn't it? So the waste was only for the first two sets of inspection. The third inspection onwards, you can rectify it. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
RTY is all about identifying the waste in your process. That's it. I repeat again. RTY is all about roll throughput yield. Yield means you are understanding the waste in the process. Clear? To the calculation, how many waste you're investing your human power, machineries, manpower, correct, equipment. You did rectification, correct. You rectified, but you need to identify the waste. You got to identify the waste, right? So that in the next sets of batches, you're eliminating the waste, isn't it? You have to do the calculation so that you cannot repeating the failure. Being a Lean Six Sigma company, you cannot afford to repeat and waste your time in repetitive mistakes. Yeah, that's what your boss says, right? Do a mistake, do one. If you have a set of checklist. So in
Right.
the if we have one side of checklist where it is acceptable, where you can see fine, you can work in one kind of checklist where it's on the first two step and you see there's a rectification done in the checklist. That is called a serial and parallel process. Got it? If you start applying this, you'll understand much better. All right. But this is very understandable concept, very basics. All right. DPO, defects per billion opportunities. Now let's talk about the DPU, defects per unit. Defects per unit would be per unit base. That is number of unit defects in the company divided by total units in the sample. That's it. That you'll get the DPU. DPMO, number of defects in a sample divided by the opportunity. So we will be doing it with the help of the examples as well, with the help of one calculation. Let's begin. The first one, DPU. Kindly continue, DPU.
DPU or defects per unit is a measurement that indicates the typical number of flaws that are present in each unit of a product. The calculation is made by dividing the total number of flaws in a group of items by the total number of products in the group.
All right, DPU is simple. You are calculating the total number of flaws in each unit and the calculation is done accordingly. Let's understand in detail with a simple calculation here. DPU is equal to total number of defects divided by total number of units. Correct?
Yes.
Next one. Here. So benefits is that means it helps us to quickly understand and set the expectation. So if we are expecting that our unit would be defect free, or if you're producing 1000 units, out of which we are assuming that is we will get successfully 980 units as a defect free. So we are expecting that only 20 units would be defected. Correct? So it is helping us to justify whether we are reaching out to the expected unit or not. Next one, it's very easy to understand and it's very simple for goal setting, because here we are particularly at the lower levels. That means we can use frequently quantifying, justifying process. How do we justify the process? Simple calculation here. All right, this is the calculation we'll be doing it in next couple of minutes. So for now, accounts for multiple DPU. Kindly continue. I'll take this. It's very two-lining. Unlike some other quality metrics, DPU is accounting multiple defects. That means it could be defects in a different variation. For example, creating TV sets. Okay, you're manufacturing TV. Okay, TV have different parts. Correct. For a TV production, you have different parts. Correct. All right. Sometimes the screen, sometimes the audio part, sometimes the LCD part, sometimes the inner attributes or switches part. There's a probability of having defects in variation, correct, in one batch itself, correct. So that's how they can consider all the variation under one batch, and we can consider that defect as a total number of defects. So it could be defect one TV could, for example, on the screen it would be 2, on the any other attributes it would be 4, on the LCD it would be 5 units, on the inner switches or parts it would be around 7. What would be the total number? 18. Correct. So if it's 18, but total sample, total manufactured production and in 1 week is around 20. So out of 20, total number of units batches I am manufacturing in my company, I have 18 default days. So it could be any pointer, but together it is can consider as 18 units. Clear? Which is a very big number. Next one. So understand what could be the good DPU? Kindly continue.
The ideal DPU is 0, as in 0 flaws, yet economic factors rarely make reaching a 0 level financially advantageous. A good DPU is the lowest value a company can get without increasing the value more than the impact of the flaws on the organization. Strive to keep the number as low as possible while keeping an eye out for any potential increases.
0 is a good DPU. That means you need to have defect-free company. All right, as better as the lower the number of your defect, the best is the DPU in your company. Isn't it simple? All right. Next slide. Example of DPU. The printing company. Yeah.
The examples of calculating DPU. The printing company fulfills personalized stationery orders. Each order is treated as a separate entity. 50 orders are chosen at random and inspected, and the following flaws are discovered. 2 orders are missing. 1 order is damaged as well as incorrect. 3 orders include errors. 6 orders contain issues, and there are a total of 7 faults out of the orders sampled. Thus, DPU, this is your average quality level, and each unit of product contains this many flaws.
Okay. So how many is the total order here? Come on, everybody, be attentive. This is the calculation.
50.
50. Very good. 50. Now, next person will give the answer. Okay. One person will one chance. All right. Next one is, the first question here is there are 50 orders. Okay. The second question is 2 orders are missing. So how many orders are missing here?
2 orders.
2.
2 order. Correct. Second one order is damaged as well as incorrect. So how many will be the second one? One
One.
order is damaged as well as is incorrect. As
Yes.
well as, when you say as well as, and then that means you're talking about 2 different factor. So one order is damaged as well as incorrect. Then it will be how much? 1 or 2? 2. It is, we see, there are 2 departments under any manufacturing company. Damage is a different department and incorrect is a different department, correct? When a particular piece is damaged and incorrect both, it will be applied in both the department, yes or no? Yes or
Yes.
no? Correct.
Yes.
So it is a 2 counts. Please understand, it's a 2 count. Because the same piece is also calculated in the incorrect part. The same piece also calculated in the damaged part. So it is 2 piece. All right. Next one. The third one. 3 orders include error. So how many is the total? Error? 3. So now what's the total now? What's the total?
7.
7. So can we say 7 divided by 50?
Yes.
Yes.
So what my total answer would be? So one similar product is damaged as well as same product is also incorrect, but it goes to different department counting. That's why we consider as a 2 defects. Understood, Mr. Charlie? Kindly continue.
Defects per opportunity or DPO provides context for how frequently an error occurs inside a process. DPO is a calculation of ratios. DPO is calculated as the ratio of the total number of defects divided by the total number of probable possibilities for a defect to arise using the formula below. Because there can never be more occurrence than opportunities, the outcome will be number between 0 and 1.
That is the basics understanding is that is the occurrences can always going to be cannot be more minus 0 or more than 1. The basically factor we're talking about is defects per opportunity. You're getting an opportunity to rework on those defects. All right. So DP is nothing but a calculation of the total number of defects, simple, divided by the probability possibility of the defect, why the defects have been arising. So we're talking about the probability factor whenever we're talking about opportunity. All right. Let's understand further. So the DPO is simple, number of defects dividing by total opportunity might, that means probability for defects to occur. All right. We are talking about the probability to defects to occur. Let's continue. Benefits.
Understanding failure rate from an opportunity point of view. University of Manchester has developed a new measurement called device performance officers, which gives you better understanding of how many faults you can expect to find in an operation. DPO measures the true failure chance for defect to occur rather than the error rate as measured by differential units per operation.
Okay. Developments, the device performance officer. Okay. A device performance officer is that kind of a concept which gives us an understanding that how many faults we can expect in the operation. That means, see, inspection is done after the production, all right, or during the production to check whether we are checking or understanding whether we are as per the aligned requirements, correct? So the innovation, this is one of the innovation done under the University of Manchester, which is one of the toughest, university to get into. The ratio is getting into this like out of 100 application, you get only 30 to 40, like 40, like, would be the administration process. Now, this little bit of the Manchesters are all the PhD scholars, which you will find in that University of Manchester. One of them, they developed one particular factor, a measurement. It's called a measurement where a device performance officer will just give a probability prior to the production itself based on the historical data. Which data? Historical data or the previous performances in the company. Based on that, they will give us a probability that how much or how many types of defaults or how many types of error can be filed, can be able to rectify or able to first, identify in one operation. All right. And the DPO measure that true failures chance for a defect to occur. Now, this particular operation, I would say it's like an operation or a new kind of a thesis, was not applied to all the industry, was unable to apply to all the industry because the probability was also a failure. So this was just purely in experimental base. This was just done in experimental base. And DPO measures the true failure, that is the true failure, DPO measures the true failure for defect to occur. That means, yes, if we find out the DPO, we can give the assurity that this number or these units or these numerics will be acting or will be coming up as a result as a defects in the production. All right. So DPO gives an assurity that this is the number which will be a failure, just not rather an error. It is actually a failure. Clear? Which is measured by differential units per operation, DPU. Let's understand first the DPO. Kindly continue.
This is one type of risk that we are already accepting. This is error means if we seeing from the previous project or from previous lesson learned. So if we know this is type of the failure going to be coming, so we should actually rectify it. Rather we accept that one.
See, some of the defaults and the rectification are inevitable. Will you accept it with that? Is it inevitable? That means it's beyond
Yes.
our, yeah. So we're talking about those errors. We're talking about those errors which is bound to happen. Those failures which is bound to happen. It could be environmental factor. It could be any other factors. It could be human error. It could be error because of the machinery machinery breakdown or a burnout, right? So these are some of them are inevitable. You cannot be, see, as a company, we always try to achieve 100 out of 100, but we know how much is the probability. Yes or no?
Yes.
Correct? The reality check. Yeah. So kindly continue. DPO is a starting point for calculating the DPMO.
The defect per million operations or DPMO is calculated by first calculating DPU and then multiplying the ratio by 1 million. This number is used to determine a process Six Sigma level. Demonstrates the failure rate of different opportunities. Unlike other metrics, DPU can show which types of failures occur more frequently.
All right. So based with the help of DPO, we are trying to understand just not the error, but which type of failure are more repetitive in nature. All right. Kindly continue.
Each customized stationery order could have one of the four flaws: inaccurate, typographical, damaged, or unfinished. As a result, each order has four possibilities. 50 orders are chosen at random and inspected, and the following flaws are discovered. Number one, two orders are missing. Second one is one order is damaged as well as
Okay.
erroneous.
All right. I'll take it from here. Two orders are missing. So what is the count here?
Two.
Two. One order is damaged as well as erroneous. Erroneous.
Same.
Yes, it's
Two.
two.
Same. Exactly. Now here we have very clear, clear indication. Three orders are including error. What is the total number of orders?
7.
Yeah.
That's of total
Total number of defects?
defects is 7.
7. But total number of orders?
It's 50.
50.
Each customization orders could have 1 into 4 flaws. All right. We have total 50 orders here. We got two numbers here. 50 is a total number of orders. 7 is a defects probability, which has been able to depict here. And the next number we have here is 50 and 7. Next number we have is that is 1 flaw. Flaw means that is error. Okay. One of the 4 flaws. It could be one of the 4 flaws. We have 4 flaws. How many 4 flaws we have? 4 different flaws. It could be inaccurate. It could be typography or typographical, damaged or unfinished. All right. So in the stationery order, you have 50 stationery orders. There's a probability that the new stationery order cannot able to deliver. And he's saying in the phone, he's calling you up and saying, I can say it was by mistake by my end. And we have 4 probability of flaws. It could be inaccurate. It could be typo. It could be damaged. It could be unfinished. So if I have 4 possibilities of damage, all right, I have 4 possibilities of damage or defect, correct? So if I have 4 possibility of damage and defect, how do we calculate further? So how are we going to do that? Is it like 50? Correct. Probability of the number of defects would be 4. So 50 by 4 is?
25.
50 by 4.
No.
Is it correct?
No. 20 into
14.
12.5.
14.
50 multiplied by 4 is how much?
50 multiplied by 200.
Exactly. So if 200, So
200.
200 is my total number, but we are saying it's a probability of 50, but we are saying it's a probability of 50 and 4 could be. So what is the correct answer I'm asking you? 50 multiplied by 4 or 50 divided by 4? What could be the correct answer? That's what I'm asking you.
50 multiplied by 4, ma'am.
How, Mr. Dinesh Kumar?
Because each order having 4 flaws.
4 flaws. Very good. If each order having is a 4 flaws and you have to understand of the 50 orders, so isn't multiplying is the correct way? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no? Correct. Now let's proceed further. Now assuming 200 is our final assumption. So based on, I'm taking on the left hand side. So if the 200 of a final assumption, what about the total number of defects did we have? Total number we calculated?
7.
7. So how will do proceed further? Just like the previous example?
200 by 7.
Yes, correct.
200 divided by 7.
Correct. So what would be the final answer? 7 divided by 200. So here
0.03.
0.035. That also matters the most for us. In one decimal, 0.035. All right. So see, this is very basics of the green belts. I guess I've already covered in the green belts of DPMO. I'm elaborating for Mr. Charlie here specifically. All right. So DPO is getting opportunities. That means you get 200 times more opportunity for 50 units. Yes or no? Correct.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
DPO for per unit would be 7 divided by 200. That is 0.035 is our DPO. Clear? Defects per Mr. Charlie.
Opportunities.
Yeah, defects per opportunity. DPMO.
DPMO, also known as NPMO. Knowing your DPMO can help your business allocate its available resources properly and potentially prevent or reduce the number of defects that happen. Knowing your NPMO is a Six Sigma metric used in quality management that stands for defects per million opportunities. Your business may use this measurement to determine the chances of defects occurring during production. To understand DPMO, it is necessary to first understand the terms associated with the acronym, which are as follows.
All right. Now, what does the NPMO stands for? Non-conformities per million opportunities. All right. So here we have, you can say the raise to the N in short. Okay. So here, opportunities, non-conformities per million. It's also known as why it's called as NPMO also, because the DPMO is a which type of metric? It's a quality matching metric. Number 1 point. Correct. Number 2, we are measuring the performance that helping us to understand what could be. So can we find out DPO? Can you find out DPMO with the help of DPO? Yes or no?
Yes.
So if we know the DPO, we can find out the DPMO. All right. So now this NPMO, why it's also called as NPMO? Because it is a ratio of the number of defects. It's a ratio of number of defects in a sample to the number of defects multiplied by the opportunity. That's why it's called as non-conformities per million. Correct? With non-conformities, we are giving an opportunity for the defects to occur. So we are just giving a probability of how much number of times it's appearance, right? Why it is NPMO? Because that's how we multiplied 4 by 50. Yes or no? Okay, I'll explain with the help of the calculator now. Yeah, kindly continue. Defects, opportunities, the basic acronym. Kindly continue.
Defects. A defect is a flaw in a process or thing, and it might be one of several odds or abnormal qualities of a unit that the user or client does not want. Opportunities. This refers to the number of potential problems or defects. A defect opportunity is a possible defect rather than an actual observable flaw, and it can be affected by the complexity of a product or unit, which indicates that the more complex the unit, the more opportunities for defect arise.
So defects nothing but a flaw in a process. It's an odd or abnormal qualities which the client perspective, as per the client, client service, or we can say customer service based or customer centric based company does not should be focused on. So we should avoid those defects which is directly impacting the client. All right. Opportunities. This is a number, potential problem. It is not a problem. It's a potential problem or a defect in the company. All right. Which is making it, which is not existing, but actual observed flaws. All right. It's not actually existing now, but it can exist in the overall unit final calculation. Correct? Which affects the complexity of the product and which has more than one complex unit. That's why we give an opportunity to or we can give an opportunity for the defects to arise. That's why we say it's opportunity. We're giving the opportunity to arise. That's why we calculated 4 was the flaws, multiply by 50 was the total unit. That's why we did the multiplication. Understood now? We are expecting this flaws to happen. We are unknown about the correct one, right? Out of 50 units, correct? In the printing stationery. We're taking up the last
Yes.
example. We didn't know the exact one. It's just haywire in the 50 units. We need to find out. So what did we do? We multiplied the 4 into 50. That is, now we have 200 units where we can find out the exact errors. Now got it? That's it's called as opportunity. Creating the defects, giving the defect an opportunity to become a failure. And then we find out the failure. Got it? So that's how do we calculate DPMO? Simple. Total number of defects found in the sample divided by total number of opportunity in the sample multiply by 1 million. All right. So that's how the simple sets of calculation here again explained with the help of a formula. How do we calculate? We need to compute a DPMO. You need to have a sample size, creating flaw, and the over number of flaws. Very straightforward mathematics. Let's do this. All right. First, let's do the mathematics here. Continue.
Each customized stationery order have one of 4 flaws: inaccurate, typographical, damaged, or unfinished. As a result, each order has 4 possibilities. 50 orders are chosen at random and inspected, and the following flaws are discovered. 2 orders are missing, 1 order is damaged, as well as erroneous defects. 3 orders include errors.
So how many total number of defects?
7.
7. Correct? All right. Now, Mr. Charlie, how many opportunities did we got in the last, as per the last calculation?
Okay,
Out of dash
200,
opportunity.
200.
Very good. Very good. So this is here 200. Okay. Out of 200 opportunities, there are how many flaws?
7.
7 flaws. Okay. Out of 200 opportunities, there are 7 faults. So DPO would be how much? We calculated DPO. How much was the DPO? 0.035. All right. Next, what happens is, then my DPMO would be what? DPMO is giving opportunity how many times? A million opportunities.
Yes.
So how do we calculate the million?
Multiply by 0.035 into
Very good. Into 1 million. Can you
million.
calculate? Tell me what's the answer? 0.035 multiplied by 1 million. Can you calculate? Tell me what's the answer?
Yes.
It is 35,000. All right. It is 35,000. So it's very, okay. This 35,000. What is this 35,000? 35K becomes what?
35 will become DPMO.
The DPMO. All right. So if your process continues to create 1 million orders, so the defect rate, so the probability of the defect can happen is around 35,000 defects. Understood? Now, Mr. Charlie, can you read this slide?
Example of calculating DPMO. Each customized stationery order would have 1 or 4 flaws: inaccurate, typographical, damaged, or unfinished. As a result, each order has 4 possibilities. 50 orders are chosen at random and inspected, and the following flaws are discovered. 2 orders are missing. 1 order is damaged as well as erroneous. 3 orders include errors. Out of the 200 opportunities, there are 7 faults. DPO is equal to 0.035 and DPMO is equal to 0.035 into 1 million, that is 35,000. If your process continue to create 1 million orders at this defect rate, it will generate 35,000 defects.
Is it understandable now? 2 benefits are mentioned here. Kindly continue of the DPMO.
Generic comparison. DPMO, like CPK, is a generic measure of process capability that allows you to compare processes across a wide range of functions. It also allows you to evaluate quality and performance across a wide range of processes. Flexibility. Depending upon the magnitude of your process, you can also speak in terms of flaws per 1,000, 100, or any other number of opportunities.
So see, here we're talking about DPMO just like a CPK. We'll be learning about CPK in detail. CPK stands for Process Capability Index. I repeat again. the year the CNP is, it has been, CPK stands for process capability. It's a measure, just like the DPMO. It's like a measure which helping us to compare the process. You're comparing the process of the range of function. That means in this one, all right, why we're comparing about the DPMO with the CPK? The reason why is, for example, if you have 3 DPMO over the long term, all right, if you have 3 DPMO, all right, over the long term, that means the process should be capable of the sigma. CPK is nothing but the range of the sigma, range of the, what is CPK? Process capability index. When you say process capability index, it's an index where we show the better value, good value, and the bad value. All right. Do not worry. The CPK, we have an entire module coming for the CPK. Clear? It stands for process capability index, the vice versa. Just the P and C comes in the P comes in the first rather than the C. Right? Next one, flexibility. Depending on the type of the magnitude of the process, we can also understand the flaws in the thousand. We're calculating the flaws in the thousand, hundreds, or any other number of opportunities. Clear? So we are for 4 flaws, which was just assumption, we multiplied into probability sets of failure. And that's how we calculated. We got the final answer as 35K as the DPMO. DPM is nothing but understanding the probability sets of failures in the company. Small defects leads to failure, and that's what the DPMO is trying to us, helping us to evaluate. Clear? Let's start with the measure quiz. Measure quiz is again a very basic and general one. We'll quickly going to take this. Kindly continue. How do you do the measurements, the random measurements? This was also included because there were many of the delegates are not having an engineering background, to make it much more familiar for them. Kindly continue. General statement of measurements.
The unit provides an excellent introduction to measurement, providing a thorough description of length, mass, and capacity. The unit includes multiple worksheets for length, mass, and capacity to practice the skill, as well as many hands-on activities and an exam at the end of the unit to judge knowledge and understanding measurement.
Simple measurement, going back to the basics of our college and the school days. We are, introduction to the measurement is helping us to understand the length, depth, mass, capacity, milliliter, centimeter, depending on the kind of measurements you want to do it. We can do the mini hands-on activity, like if you are doing this measurement to understand the unit, to understand the knowledge, to able to calculate, to able to complex computation, you to able to understand the valuable of the particular unit and the valuation. That's simple measurement in general knowledge. Next slide. Quiz. The quiz came in from, kindly continue.
A countable noun, a quiz is a game or competition in which someone asks you questions to access your knowledge. At the end of the show, there will be a quiz. Synonyms include competition, text, quiz show, and panel games. More quiz synonyms.
All right, this is as old as the specific thing. The When the British era was able to there in India specific, there were Indian scholars who were able to, they were representing British as they are one of their citizens, and we as they were Indian scholars who were able to flourish their name. So practically, it was Indian minds was there around the world globally, accomplishing name for the British era at that time. But then later in the year 19th century, 18th century to 19th century, in the early 19th century, the USA came up with this word quiz, and then that makes it much more familiar with understanding the IQ level of a person, having more beyond than the academics learning. This quiz was involved in the competition quiz, panel games, and this quiz today, the quiz which is have a higher version, we call it Olympiad in school. Yes or no? We have
Yes.
Olympiad in schools, right? It has different level of Olympiads from ranging like it start from first grade
Grade
to
to
12th grade.
12th grade.
Yeah, yeah, from first grade to the 12th grade, you can apply for the Olympiad, and you have different levels to able to conquer. Clear? Next one. And where do we get this? How do we measure quiz? Now, the question is, you might have heard about MCQs, fill in the blanks, this multiple ones. Why are we learning about quiz test in your portion? The reason why is you have to create your own customized syllabus. Being a black belt, you are going to be by default a trainer. It's going to be a part of your designation. So you have to create your Six Sigma content into these kind of interesting way to able to teach your lower belts. Clear? That's the only agenda for this pointers to add in your topic. Understood?